Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a world where winter doesn't just nip at your nose. It gnaws at your bones, steals your breath, and dares you to survive. You're not in a cozy cabin with cocoa and Wi-Fi. You're in a medieval cottage, somewhere deep in the grip of the Little Ice Age. And spoiler alert, you probably won't survive this. The walls are timber and wattle, stuffed with straw that's more decorative than insulating. The roof leaks. The wind whistles through every crack like a ghost with a grudge. You wake up and your breath fogs the air, inside. The blanket you're clutching is stiff with frost, and the fire you begged to stay alive last night has dwindled to a sulky pile of ash. You can see your own toes, and they look questionable. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where you're listening from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're lying on a straw mattress that smells faintly of mildew and goat. The blanket is made from coarse wool, and it's shared with two siblings and a dog who's probably warmer than you. The cottage is one room, maybe two if your family's lucky. The hearth is the heart of it all, but right now it's barely beating. You shuffle toward it, teeth chattering, and poke the embers with a stick. Nothing. You whisper a curse you learned from your uncle, who swears it works better than prayer. Outside, the snow is knee-deep and crusted over. The sun hasn't risen yet, and you're not sure it ever will. Winter in the 14th century doesn't care about your schedule. It arrives early, stays late, and brings friends. Frostbite, famine, and fear. Historians still argue whether the Little Ice Age began in the 13th or 14th century, but you don't need a date to know it's here. The cold is deeper than anything you've ever felt. It's not just weather, it's punishment. Your fingers ache before you even touch the door latch. You wrap them in a strip of cloth soaked in animal fat, a trick your grandmother swore by. It smells like regret and bacon. You step outside and the wind slaps you like it's personal. The snow crunches underfoot, but not in a festive way. It's the crunch of something that wants to swallow you whole. You trudge toward the woodpile, which is more of a wood suggestion at this point. A few damp logs, some twigs, and a broken chair leg. You hesitate. That chair was your father's. He carved it himself. But he's gone now. Fever took him last winter, and the chair won't keep you warm unless it burns. You drag the leg back inside and toss it into the hearth. It catches slowly, reluctantly, like it knows it's being sacrificed. The flames flicker, casting long shadows on the walls. Your siblings stir, coughing. One of them has a rash. You pretend not to notice. Breakfast is a crust of bread so hard it could double as a weapon. You dip it in a bowl of thin broth, mostly water, a hint of turnip. You chew slowly, imagining it's stew. Your mother used to make stew with onions, garlic, and bits of pork. Now onions are currency, garlic is legend, and pork is a memory. You glance at the ceiling. Icicles hang from the beams. One drips onto your shoulder. You don't flinch. You're used to it. The cottage is a sieve, and the cold is clever. It finds you in your sleep, in your shoes, in your soul. A rat scurries across the floor. You consider chasing it, not out of fear, out of hunger. Rat meat isn't ideal, but it's meat. You've eaten worse. Remember that time you tried to roast a crow? It tasted like regret and feathers. You wrap yourself in a cloak made from stitched-together scraps, old tunics, curtain pieces, a bit of fur from a dog that didn't make it. It's patchwork survival, and it smells like everything you've lived through. Outside, the village is quiet, too quiet. Snow muffles sound, but this silence is different. It's the kind that comes when people are too cold to talk, too hungry to argue. You pass a neighbor's cottage and see smoke rising. Lucky, they must have found wood, or maybe they're burning books. Literacy isn't much use when your fingers are falling off. You reach the communal well. It's frozen solid. You chip at it with a rock, hoping for a trickle. Nothing. You'll have to melt snow again. It tastes like ash and desperation. Back home, your mother is trying to sew a new pair of mittens. She's using thread made from rabbit sinew and patches from an old sock. She hums a tune, something from Before the Cold. You don't recognize it, but it makes you feel something. Not warmth exactly, but not despair either. You sit by the fire, such as it is, and stare into the flames. They dance like they're mocking you. You whisper to them, asking for mercy. They don't answer.
You're out before the sun, if it even bothers showing up today. The sky is a dull smear of gray, like someone forgot to finish painting it. Your breath fogs the air in thick clouds, and your fingers are already stiff despite the layers of cloth and animal fat. You're heading toward the woods, or what's left of them. Firewood is life, and life is running out. The path is familiar, but treacherous. Snow hides the holes, the roots, the frozen puddles that snap ankles like twigs. You step carefully, listening for the crunch of ice or the howl of something worse. You carry a hatchet, dull but loyal, and a sack for whatever you can scavenge. You're not alone. Half the village is out here, scattered like desperate squirrels, each hoping to find a log that hasn't already been claimed. You spot a branch, thick, dry, promising. You rush toward it, only to see another figure dart from the trees. It's Tomas, the miller's son. He's faster, and he's got a better blade. You lock eyes. He hesitates. You don't. You lunge for the branch, and he backs off. Not out of kindness, out of calculation. He'll wait until you're tired, then take it from you later. Historians still argue whether medieval peasants had formal rights to gather wood from the Lord's forest. Technically, you're not supposed to be here. The forest belongs to the manor, and the penalty for poaching can be severe. Fines, beatings, even mutilation. But Winter doesn't care about rules, and neither do you. You drag the branch back toward the village, heart pounding, eyes scanning for the reeve or one of the Lord's men. You pass a stump that's been hacked to oblivion. Someone tried to burn the roots. Desperate times. You remember last week when old Marjorie burned her spinning wheel. She said it was cursed anyway, so why not get some warmth out of it? Back home, you split the branch into manageable pieces. The hatchet groans with each swing, and your arms ache. You stack the wood near the hearth like treasure. Your mother sighs with relief. Your siblings cheer weakly. You've bought another day of warmth. Maybe two, if you ration it. But rationing warmth is a cruel game. You can't heat the whole cottage, so you choose. The hearth gets the fire, and everyone huddles close. The corners of the room stay frozen. Your toes go numb if you wander too far. You sleep in shifts, rotating spots near the flames. It's like musical chairs, but the loser gets frostbite. You remember last winter when your cousin tried to warm his feet by burying them in fresh manure? It worked, for a while. Then the frost came back, and the smell never left. Quirky solutions are common. Some villagers swear by wrapping their limbs in nettles to stimulate blood flow. Others rub goose fat on their cheeks. You tried that once. It attracted a dog and two very confused chickens.
You hear shouting outside. A scuffle. You peek through the shutter and see two men wrestling over a bundle of twigs. One of them is bleeding. The other is crying. You close the shutter. You've seen enough. Later, you visit the communal barn. It's supposed to be a place of sharing, but winter turns generosity into suspicion. You offer a few sticks in exchange for dried beans. The keeper eyes you warily, then nods. You get the beans. They're hard as stones, but they'll soften in broth, eventually. You pass the manor house on your way back. It looms like a smug giant, its windows glowing with firelight. You imagine the lord sipping wine, wrapped in furs, complaining about the draft. You wonder if he's ever chopped wood. Probably not. He has servants for that. You have frostbite. Historians still debate how much nobles understood or cared about peasant suffering during winter. Some records show lords distributing firewood or food during harsh seasons. Others suggest indifference, or worse, exploitation. You know, your lord gave out a sack of coal last month. It went to his steward's cousin. You got nothing. Back home, you light the fire. The wood crackles and the room warms slightly. You sit close, letting the heat seep into your bones. Your mother ladles out broth, thin but hot. You sip slowly, savoring each drop. Your siblings giggle as the dog tries to steal a crust of bread. You let him. He's earned it. Night falls early. The wind howls. You stack the remaining wood carefully, counting each piece. You'll need more tomorrow, always more. The forest is shrinking, and the danger is growing. Bandits lurk near the edges, waiting for desperate villagers. Wolves, too. You've heard stories, packs that follow people home, watching, waiting. You wrap yourself in your patchwork cloak and lie near the hearth. The fire flickers, casting dancing shadows on the walls. You close your eyes and dream of summer. Not beaches or sunshine, just warmth. A day without numb fingers, a night without coughing, a morning where you don't have to fight for firewood. But for now, you sleep lightly. The cold is clever, and it never sleeps.
Your stomach growls before your eyes even open. It's not a polite rumble, it's a full-blown protest. You roll over, hoping the feeling will pass, but hunger in winter is clingy. It wraps around your ribs and whispers, "Good morning, still empty?" You sit up and glance toward the hearth. The fire is out, again. The last of the wood burned through the night, and now the cottage is a tomb of frost. Your breath fogs the air. Your siblings are still asleep, curled like kittens under the blanket. You envy their dreams. Breakfast is a negotiation. Your mother opens the food chest, which is really just a wooden box with a few secrets. Inside, a handful of dried beans, a lump of lard, and something that might have been cheese once. She sighs and pulls out the bread. It's not bread like you know it. It's bark bread, made from ground tree bark, a little rye flour, and desperation. It's gray, gritty, and tastes like the forest floor. You chew slowly, trying not to think about the splinters. Historians still argue whether bark bread was common or a last resort, but you know the truth. It's survival in a loaf. You remember last month when someone tried mixing stone powder into their dough. It made the bread heavier, sure, but also made their teeth fall out. You stick to bark. At least it's organic. You head outside, hoping to find something edible. The snow crunches underfoot, and your breath curls like smoke. You check the traps near the edge of the woods. One is empty. One has a rabbit, half frozen, eyes wide. You whisper, "Thanks," and tuck it into your sack. You pass the village midden where scraps and bones are tossed. Sometimes you find something useful, a bit of fat, a broken pot, a rat that didn't run fast enough. Today, it's just frozen sludge. You move on. You spot a neighbor boiling something in a pot. You ask what it is. She says, "Soup." You ask what's in it. She says, "Hope." You laugh, but it's not funny. You've made soup from boiled leather before. It's chewy, but filling. You once tried boiling your shoe. It tasted like regret and foot. Back home, your mother skins the rabbit. She's quick, practiced. She adds it to the pot with beans and a pinch of salt. The smell is heavenly. Your siblings gather around, eyes wide. Even the dog looks reverent. You eat slowly, savoring each bite. The meat is tough, the beans are gritty, but it's warm. You feel human again, for a moment. After lunch, you help your mother grind more bark. The mortar is cracked, and the pestle is worn smooth. You add a handful of dried nettles for flavor. It doesn't help. You mix the flour with water and shape it into flat rounds. They'll bake on the hearthstone tonight. You remember the feast days, those rare moments when food wasn't just fuel, but celebration. St. Martin's Day, Candlemas, even the Lord's birthday. The manor would host a feast, and sometimes peasants got scraps. You once tasted honey-roasted turnip. It changed your life. Historians still debate how often peasants celebrated feast days during winter. Some say they were rare. Others say they were essential. Brief respites from the grind. You know they mattered. They reminded you the joy still existed, even if it came in the form of a shared onion. You hear a knock at the door. It's Marjorie, the widow from 2 cottages down. She's holding a basket. Inside, 2 eggs and a strip of dried meat. She wants to trade for bark flour.
You agree. It's a good deal. You'll make stew tonight. You crack the eggs into the pot and add the meat. The smell is rich, almost sinful. Your siblings dance around the hearth. You smile. It's not much, but it's something. You remember your uncle's stories of winters so harsh they ate shoe leather and boiled bones. He said one year they made soup from a dead crow and a stolen onion. He swore it tasted like victory. You finish the stew and ladle it out. Everyone gets a bowl. You eat slowly, letting the warmth spread through your chest. You feel full, not stuffed, but satisfied. It's a rare feeling. You clean the pot and stack the bark rounds near the hearth. They'll bake overnight if the fire holds. You wrap yourself in your cloak and lie down. Your stomach is quiet. Your heart is calm. Outside, the wind howls. Inside, you dream of feast days, honeyed turnips, and bread that doesn't splinter.
The howling starts just after dusk. You're sitting near the hearth, chewing on a bark round that tastes like regret and pine, when the first long, mournful cry slices through the silence. You freeze, not because of the cold, though that's always there, but because you know that sound. Everyone does. Wolves. You glance at your siblings. They've gone quiet, eyes wide, ears straining. Your mother sets down her sewing and moves to the door, bolting it with a wooden latch that looks far too flimsy now. The dog growls low in his throat. He remembers last winter. You step outside just for a moment. The snow glows under the moonlight, and the village is still, too still. You scan the tree line. Nothing, but you feel it, the tension, the watching. You're not alone. Historians still argue whether wolf attacks were common or exaggerated in medieval folklore, but here, in this moment, you don't care what the records say. You know what you've seen. Last year, a boy from the next village went out to check his traps and never came back. They found his boot, just the boot. You hurry back inside and stoke the fire. The flames flicker, casting jittery shadows on the walls. You grab the hatchet and keep it close. It's dull, but it's yours. Your siblings huddled together, whispering prayers and half-remembered charms. Your mother lights a candle and places it near the window. Not for light, but for protection. Some say wolves fear fire. Others say they fear nothing. You remember a story your grandfather told about a wolf that walked on 2 legs and spoke Latin. He said it was a cursed monk. You laughed then. You don't laugh now. The howling grows louder, closer. You hear movement outside, soft crunches in the snow, deliberate, circling. You peek through the shutter. Shapes move in the dark, 4 legs, low to the ground, fast. You whisper to the fire, begging it to stay alive. You toss in a handful of dried herbs, not for heat, but for scent. Some villagers believe rosemary wards off beasts. Others say it just smells nice.
You hear a scream, not from your cottage, but from the edge of the village. A woman's voice, sharp and sudden, then silence. You grip the hatchet tighter.
Your mother begins to hum. It's a lullaby, old and cracked. Your siblings join in, their voices thin but steady. It's not for comfort, it's for courage. You sing too, barely above a whisper. The dog barks, loud, urgent. You jump. Something scratches at the door, not claws, something heavier. You hold your breath. The latch holds, for now. You remember the bandits too. Winter brings more than wolves. Hunger makes men cruel. They come in groups, cloaked and armed, looking for food, firewood, anything. They don't knock. They don't ask. They take. Historians still debate whether banditry surged during the Little Ice Age or was simply more visible. You know it's real. You've seen the aftermath. Burned cottages, missing livestock, bruises that never fade. You sit through the night, eyes on the door, ears tuned to every creak and whisper. The fire burns low. You feed it slowly, rationing each stick. You can't afford to run out. Not tonight. Eventually, the howling fades. The scratching stops. The dog settles. You exhale shakily and slow. Your siblings have fallen asleep, curled like spoons. Your mother nods off, her candle still flickering. You stay awake, just in case. Morning comes, pale and reluctant. You step outside. The snow is disturbed, tracks, deep and wide, circling the cottage. You follow them to the edge of the woods. They vanish. You hear whispers in the village. The woman who screamed is missing. Her door was open. Her hearth was cold. You help gather wood for her family. It's what you do. You share what little you have because winter doesn't care about fairness. It takes what it wants. You fight back with kindness, with community, with bark bread and borrowed cloaks. You return home and sit by the fire. The dog rests his head on your lap. You stroke his fur, grateful he stayed. You eat another bark round. It's dry, but filling. You hum the lullaby from last night. It's stuck in your head. Outside, the snow glistens. Inside, you're still breathing. You wake with a jolt. Your fingers are stiff, your toes are numb, and your nose feels like it's been dipped in ice water. You try to flex your hands, but the joints protest. The cold has crept in overnight, curling around your limbs like a jealous lover. You sit up slowly, wincing as your knees crack like old wood. Your mother is already up, rubbing her hands together near the hearth. The fire is barely alive, a few glowing embers clinging to existence. She tosses in a twig and blows gently. The flame sputters, then catches. You shuffle over and hold your hands out. The heat is weak, but it's something. You glance down at your feet. The toes are pale, almost bluish. You wiggle them. They respond, barely. You remember your cousin who lost 2 toes last winter. He said it felt like they just gave up and left.
You wrap your feet in cloth and animal fat, hoping to coax them back to life. Historians still argue whether frostbite was recognized as a distinct condition in medieval times. Some say it was called winter rot. Others believe it was simply accepted as part of life. You know it hurts. That's enough. You help your mother prepare a poultice: mustard seeds, goose fat, and a pinch of nettle. She rubs it on your fingers, muttering a prayer. It stings. You don't complain. Pain means you're still here. You head outside to gather straw. Not for bedding, for wrapping. Some villagers swear by straw bundles tied around limbs. It insulates, they say. You look ridiculous, but you're warmer. You wrap your hands, your feet, even your ears. You resemble a scarecrow, but you're a functional one. You pass old Willem's cottage. He's sitting outside, feet bare, staring at the snow. You ask if he's okay. He says he can't feel his legs. You help him inside, wrap his feet and light his fire. He smiles weakly. You leave him with a bark round and a whispered joke about scarecrow fashion. You return home and check your siblings. One has red patches on her fingers. You rub them with the poultice. She cries. You hum the lullaby. It helps. You remember a story about a knight who rode through a blizzard wearing nothing but pride and chainmail. He lost 3 fingers and half his nose. They say he wore a silver mask afterward. You wonder if it was worth it. You help your mother sew mittens from scraps. She uses rabbit fur and old tunics. The stitches are crooked, but the warmth is real. You wear them proudly. Your siblings beg for their own. You promise to make more. You visit the abbey. The monks are brewing something, herbs and vinegar. They offer it as a rub for frostbite. You accept, even though it smells like regret and salad dressing. They also give you a small vial of oil. They say it's from olives. You're skeptical, but grateful. Historians still debate the effectiveness of medieval remedies for frostbite. Some worked, some didn't. Some were just distractions. You'll take any distraction that smells like olives. You return home and rub the oil on your toes. They tingle. You wrap them in cloth and sit by the fire. Your siblings gather around, giggling at your scarecrow look. You tickle them with straw. They laugh. It's a good sound. You eat a bark round and sip broth. Your fingers ache, but they move. Your toes throb, but they're still attached. You count that as a win. You remember last winter when your neighbor tried to warm his hands by holding hot stones. He burned himself. Then the burns froze. He said it was the worst of both worlds. You lie down near the hearth, wrapped in straw and scraps. The fire crackles. Your siblings snore softly. Your mother hums. Outside the wind howls. Inside you're warm-ish. You close your eyes and dream of gloves made from velvet, boots lined with fur, and a world where winter doesn't bite.
You're halfway through your bark round when the knock comes. It's not polite. It's the kind of knock that demands. You glance at your mother. She's already standing, smoothing her apron and straightening her back. You know what this is. The Lord's tithe.
You open the door to find the steward and 2 men-at-arms. They're wrapped in fine cloaks, boots clean despite the snow, faces stern. The steward holds a scroll. He doesn't greet you. He reads. 2 sacks of grain, 1 cured ham, 4 bundles of firewood. You blink. That's half your winter. You explain, gently, that the ham was eaten weeks ago, and the grain is nearly gone. The steward doesn't flinch. He repeats the list. The men-at-arms shift their weight. You feel the pressure like a weight on your chest. Historians still argue whether medieval tithes were enforced with violence or simply expected. You know the answer. You've seen bruises. You've heard screams. Your mother steps forward, offering 1 sack of grain and 2 bundles of wood. The steward frowns. He says the Lord is generous to let you live on his land. He says generosity must be repaid. You offer the last of the dried beans. He accepts, reluctantly. They leave without thanks. You watch them walk toward the manor, their boots crunching the snow like it's beneath them. You close the door and sit down. Your siblings are quiet. The dog whines. You remember last year when the tithe took your only goat. You cried. Your mother didn't. She said tears don't warm you. You check the food chest. It's nearly empty. You'll have to forage again. Maybe trade. Maybe beg. You visit Marjorie, the widow. She offers a turnip in exchange for help chopping wood. You agree. The turnip is soft, but edible. You boil it with bark flour. It tastes like survival. You pass the manor on your way back. Smoke rises from the chimneys. You imagine roast meat, warm bread, wine. You wonder if the Lord knows what bark bread tastes like. Probably not. You remember a story about a peasant who refused the tithe. They say he was dragged to the stocks and left there for 3 days. He lost 2 fingers to frostbite. He still refused. They say he was brave. You say he was hungry. You help your mother patch the roof. The thatch is thin and snow leaks through. You use straw and mud, hands numb, feet aching. Your siblings help, giggling as they smear mud on each other. You smile. It's a rare moment. You hear the church bell. It's a summons. You gather your cloak and head toward the chapel. The priest speaks of obedience, of gratitude, of divine order. He says the Lord is chosen by God. You wonder if God eats bark bread. Historians still debate the role of religion in enforcing feudal obligations. Some say it was spiritual. Others say it was strategic. You say it was cold. You return home and light the fire. The flames dance, casting warm shadows. You eat the last of the turnip stew and wrap yourself in your cloak. Your siblings snore softly. Your mother hums. You dream of a world where tithe means sharing, not taking, where warmth is a right, not a privilege. Outside, the snow falls. Inside, you endure.
The feast day arrives like a flicker of candlelight in a cave. It's St. Bridget's, and while the cold still claws at your bones, today there's a whisper of celebration.
You wake to the sound of distant bells and the smell of something cooking, something real. Your mother is already up, slicing an onion with reverence usually reserved for relics. It's the only one you have saved for this day. She adds it to a pot with a crust of cheese and a few dried herbs. The broth bubbles, thin but fragrant. Your siblings hover nearby, eyes wide, mouths watering. You help set the table, which is really just a plank balanced on two barrels. You lay out bark rounds, a bowl of broth, and a single candle. It's crooked and half melted, but it glows. That's enough. Historians still argue whether feast days were truly joyful for peasants or simply less miserable. You know today feels different. There's laughter, there's music, there's an onion in the pot. You head to the village square where others have gathered. Someone's playing a lute, badly, but with enthusiasm. Children chase each other through the snow, wrapped in cloaks and scarves. A woman hands out bits of dried apple. You get one. It tastes like memory. The priest leads a short service speaking of St. Bridget's generosity and warmth. He says she once turned bathwater into beer. You wonder if she can turn bark bread into cake. Probably not. You join a circle near the fire pit. Someone brought a pig's foot. It's roasting slowly, crackling. You get a sliver. It's chewy, salty, divine. You close your eyes and savor it. You remember last year's feast when the manor sent down a wheel of cheese. It was moldy, but no one cared. You ate it with joy and a little fear. This year, no gifts from the Lord, just the villagers sharing scraps and stories. You hear a tale about a man who danced so hard at St. Bridget's feast that he cracked the ice beneath him and fell into the river. He survived, but they say he came out speaking in rhymes. You laugh. It feels good. You help stir the communal pot. It's mostly turnips and nettles, but someone added a splash of ale. The steam rises, fragrant and warm. You ladle out bowls, passing them to children, elders, anyone who needs. You get one too. It's hot. It's enough. You sit near the fire and listen to stories. One man speaks of a wolf he tamed with song. Another swears he saw St. Bridget herself walking through the snow with bare feet and a smile. You nod. You want to believe. Historians still debate whether saints were seen as literal visitors or symbolic comforts. You say it doesn't matter. Belief warms you. That's enough. You return home with a full belly and a lighter heart. Your siblings are asleep, curled together like kittens. Your mother is sewing, humming a tune from the feast. You sit by the fire and sip the last of the broth. You dream of feast days that last longer, of tables filled with food, of laughter that doesn't freeze in the air. Outside, the snow falls gently. Inside, you remember what joy tastes like.
You wake coughing, not the polite kind, the deep, chest-rattling kind that makes your ribs ache. Your throat feels raw, your nose is crusted, and your head is stuffed with something that isn't thoughts. Your mother presses a hand to your forehead. It's warm, too warm.
She wraps you in a cloak and whispers, "We're going to the Abbey." You groan. The Abbey is a half-mile away, uphill, through snow that's knee-deep and getting deeper. But you don't argue. You can't. Your legs feel like wet straw. She bundles you onto a sled made from a broken door and 2 fence posts. Your siblings wave solemnly. The dog whines. You set off, pulled slowly, the world spinning slightly with each jolt. The Abbey looms ahead, stone and stern. The monks don't smile, but they nod. One leads you inside, where the air smells of herbs, vinegar, and something faintly holy. You're laid on a straw mat near the hearth. It's warmer than your cottage, but not by much. Historians still argue whether monks were the primary caregivers in medieval villages or simply the most accessible. You know they're your best shot. Brother Anselm examines you. He's old, with hands like parchment and eyes like candlelight. He mutters to himself, then begins mixing a poultice. Mustard seeds, vinegar, and crushed garlic. He smears it on your chest. It burns. You wheeze. He nods. "Good," he says. You sip a tea made from elderflower and nettle. It tastes like weeds and hope. You cough again. He hands you a cloth soaked in camphor. You breathe through it. The world sharpens slightly. You remember last winter when your cousin had the same cough. He didn't make it to the Abbey. He didn't make it. Brother Anselm hums as he works. He tells you to rest. You do. The straw mat is scratchy, but your limbs are too tired to care. You drift in and out, waking to the sound of chanting, coughing, and the occasional goat. You hear a monk reciting a prayer over someone nearby. You peek. It's Marjorie. She looks worse than you. Her eyes are glassy, her breath shallow. You whisper her name. She doesn't respond. You sleep again. This time you dream of warmth. Not fire, but sunlight. You're in a field, barefoot, chasing butterflies. You wake coughing. Brother Anselm checks your pulse. He nods. "You'll live," he says. You believe him, mostly. He gives your mother a pouch of herbs and a small vial of oil. Rub this on his chest and pray. You're bundled back onto the sled. The wind bites, but you're wrapped in 2 cloaks and a monk's blessing. You arrive home, coughing, but breathing. Your siblings cheer. The dog licks your face. Your mother brews the herbs into a tea. You drink it slowly. It's bitter, but it helps. You lie near the hearth, wrapped in blankets and hope. Your mother rubs the oil on your chest. It smells like rosemary and something ancient. You remember a story about a monk who cured a fever by singing to it. You hum softly, just in case. Historians still debate the effectiveness of medieval herbal remedies. Some were brilliant. Some were guesswork. You say anything that helps you breathe is worth trying. You sleep deeply that night. No dreams, just warmth. Outside, the snow falls. Inside, you heal. You wake to coughing. Not yours this time, your little brother's. It's sharp, wet, and relentless. He's curled under the blanket, cheeks flushed, eyes glassy. Your mother presses a hand to his forehead and frowns. You know that look. You've seen it before. The fire is low, The cottage is cold. You toss in the last of the wood, watching the flames catch slowly, reluctantly. Your brother shivers. You wrap him in your cloak, whispering nonsense to distract him. He smiles weakly. You brew the herbs Brother Anselm gave you. The tea smells bitter, earthy. You hold the cup to your brother's lips. He sips, coughs, sips again. You hum the lullaby. He closes his eyes. Historians still argue whether medieval families understood contagion or simply feared it. You know the fear. It's in your bones. You've seen how fast a cough becomes a funeral. You check the others. Your sister is pale, but breathing fine. Your mother looks tired, but steady. You feel the weight of responsibility pressing down like snow on a roof. You remember last winter when 3 cottages lost children in 1 week. The priest said it was God's will. The villagers said it was the cold. You say it was both. You boil water and soak cloths. You wipe your brother's forehead, his chest, his hands. You whisper stories about saints, about summer, about a dog who learned to talk. He laughs, then coughs. You keep talking. You hear a knock. It's Marjorie. She looks better. She brings a pouch of dried rose hips. For the fever, she says. You thank her. You brew them into tea. Your brother drinks. He sleeps.
You step outside for air. The village is quiet, too quiet. You see smoke from a few chimneys. You hear a distant cough. You wonder how many are sick. You visit the abbey again. Brother Anselm is busy. 3 new patients, all coughing. He gives you more herbs, more oil, more prayers. You thank him. You return home. You remember a story about a healer who used frog slime to treat coughs. You don't have frogs. You have rose hips and hope. You sit by your brother's side, watching his chest rise and fall. You count each breath. You hum softly. Historians still debate whether medieval medicine was more superstition than science. You say it's both. You say it's survival. Your brother wakes. He smiles. He asks for broth. You cheer, quietly. You boil bark flour and a scrap of cheese. He eats slowly. He coughs less. You breathe easier. You wrap him in blankets and sit beside him. Your mother joins you. She hums the lullaby. You harmonize. Outside, the wind howls. Inside, your brother sleeps. You dream of a world where coughs don't mean fear, where healing is certain, where tea tastes like comfort, not compromise. You wake to silence. Your brother is still breathing. You smile.
The thaw comes like a trickster. One morning, the snow begins to melt, not gently, but all at once. The icicles drip like leaky faucets. The roof groans and the ground turns to soup. You step outside and sink ankle deep into slush. It's not spring. It's the thaw. That's what the villagers call it, the thaw's wrath. It floods, it rots, it ruins. You trudge through the muck, boots soaked, cloak heavy with moisture. The air smells of wet straw, mold, and something sour. Your cottage creaks ominously. The thatch roof is leaking in 3 places. You place buckets beneath the drips, but they fill fast. Your mother mutters about patching, but the straw is too damp to hold. You climb onto the roof with a bundle of reeds and mud, trying to plug the holes. You slip twice. The second time, you land in a puddle that smells suspiciously like goat. Historians still argue whether medieval homes were built to withstand seasonal flooding. Some say yes, others say peasants simply endured. You say the roof is a liar. Inside, the floor is wet. The firewood is damp. The hearth smokes instead of crackles. You cough. Your brother coughs. Your mother curses softly. You remember last year's thaw, when the stream overflowed and carried away half the village's chickens. One floated back 3 days later, angry and missing feathers. You named him Saint Cluck. You check the food chest. The bark flour is soggy, the beans are sprouting, the cheese is evolving. You scrape off the green bits and boil the rest. It tastes like penance. You visit the abbey. Brother Anselma's treating a rash that looks suspiciously like mold. He says the thaw brings disease. He gives you a pouch of dried thyme and a warning: boil everything. You return home and boil your water, your cloths, your patience. You hang the cloaks near the hearth, hoping they'll dry before mildew claims them. Your siblings play in the puddles. You tell them to stop. They don't. You hear a crash. The neighbor's roof has collapsed. You rush over. No one's hurt, but everything inside is soaked. You help salvage what you can: blankets, pots, a half-dry loaf of bark bread. You share your time. They thank you with a smile and a wet hug. You remember a story about a monk who built a house on stilts to avoid the thaw. It collapsed in a windstorm. He rebuilt it underground. It flooded. He became a fisherman. Historians still debate whether medieval villagers had drainage systems. You say the puddle in your bed is evidence to the contrary. You patch your roof again, this time with desperation and a prayer. It holds for now. You mop the floor with straw, you boil more broth, you cough less. You sit by the hearth, watching the steam rise. Your siblings are dry, your mother is humming, the dog is asleep in a puddle. Outside, the thaw rages. Inside, you resist. You dream of a world where thaw means flowers, not floods. Where spring arrives gently, not like a drunk uncle kicking down the door. You wake to dripping, but you're still dry.
You're digging again. Not for roots or firewood. This time, it's graves. The ground is half thawed, which means half mud, half ice, and all misery. You grip the spade with numb fingers, pushing it into the slush. It resists. Everything resists. Your breath fogs the air. Your back aches. You keep digging.
Old Willem passed in the night. Fever, maybe, or the thaw, or just winter finally winning. His cottage is quiet now, the hearth cold. You and 2 others volunteered to bury him. It's what you do. It's what's left. Historians still argue whether medieval burials were always religious or sometimes improvised. You know today is both. The priest didn't come. Said he was tending to the manor's steward who has a cough and coin. You whisper a prayer anyway. You remember last winter when 3 villagers died in 1 week. The priest came for 1. The others were buried with herbs in silence. You say dignity should be free. You wrap Willem in a patched cloak and lay him gently in the grave. You sprinkle dried rosemary, Marjorie's idea. She says it wards off spirits. You say it smells nice. You cover him slowly, carefully. The earth is reluctant. You press it down with your boots. You mark the spot with a stone. You whisper, goodbye. You return home, hands raw, heart heavy. Your mother hands you a bowl of broth. You sip slowly. Your siblings are quiet. They know. You remember a story about a knight who buried his squire with a silver coin and a poem. You don't have silver. You hum the lullaby instead. You visit Marjorie. She's sewing a shroud for another neighbor. She says it's good to keep busy. You help her stitch. The cloth is rough, the thread uneven. It's enough. You hear the church bell. Another death. You don't ask who. You just nod. You help patch the roof of the cottage next door. The widow thanks you with a crust of bread and a smile. You say, it's more than enough. Historians still debate whether medieval communities had formal mourning rituals. You say, grief is a ritual. You say kindness is one too. You sit by the hearth, watching the flames. Your siblings sleep. Your mother hums. The dog sighs. Outside, the wind is quiet. Inside, you remember. You dream of a world where graves are rare, where priests come, where rosemary is for cooking, not comfort. You wake with a tear on your cheek. You don't wipe it away. You're stitching again. Not for beauty, for survival. The cloak you're wearing is falling apart, and the wind doesn't care about your excuses. You sit near the hearth, needle in hand, threading scraps together like a puzzle made of desperation. Your mother hands you a bundle of old curtains. They're faded, torn, and smell faintly of mildew. You smile. They'll do. You cut them into strips, layering them with bits of rabbit fur, worn tunics, and a patch from your cousin's old breeches. It's not fashion, it's armor. Historians still argue whether medieval peasants had access to proper winter clothing or relied entirely on improvisation. You say patchwork is the uniform of the resilient. You remember last winter when Marjorie made mittens from goat hide and shoe leather. They looked ridiculous. They worked. You ask her for tips. She says, layer everything, even pride. You stitch slowly, fingers stiff. The needle is bent, the thread uneven. You hum to keep rhythm. Your siblings watch,
fascinated. You promise to make them cloaks too. They cheer. You visit the village square, showing off your creation. It's lumpy, mismatched, and glorious. Tomas laughs. You challenge him to a snowball fight. He loses. You win warmth and bragging rights. You help Marjorie mend a blanket. She adds embroidery, tiny stars, and crooked moons. You ask why. She says beauty is a kind of warmth. You believe her. You remember a story about a woman who stitched her life story into a cloak. Each patch was a memory. She wore it until it fell apart. Then she stitched it again. You trade a patch of fur for a spool of thread. The merchant says it's from Italy. You doubt it. It's strong. That's enough. You patch your boots with curtain scraps and wax. They squeak when you walk. Your siblings giggle. You squeak proudly. You visit the abbey. Brother Anselm gives you a bundle of linen. He says, "For the children." You thank him. You stitch tunics that look like potato sacks. They're warm. That's what matters. Historians still debate whether medieval clothing was layered for insulation or simply reused out of necessity. You say both. You say every stitch is a story. You sit by the fire, wrapped in your patchwork cloak. Your siblings wear their new tunics, dancing like turnips in a parade. Your mother smiles. The dog wears a scarf made from curtain fringe. Outside, the wind howls. Inside, you're wrapped in resilience. You dream of a world where cloaks are made of velvet, where boots don't squeak, where warmth is woven into every thread. You wake to the sound of laughter. You smile.
You light the candle slowly, reverently. It's Candlemas, and while the snow still blankets the earth like a stubborn ghost, today feels different. The flame flickers, casting golden light across the cottage walls. Your siblings gather around, eyes wide, faces hopeful. Candlemas is a turning point, or so they say, the halfway mark between winter and spring. You whisper the old rhyme, "If Candlemas be fair and bright, winter will have another flight." You glance outside. It's cloudy. You don't know whether to cheer or cry. Historians still argue whether Candlemas was more pagan than Christian in origin. You say it's both. You say it's a ritual stitched from hope and habit. Your mother places the candle in the window. It's meant to guide spring home. You add a sprig of rosemary and a pinch of salt. Marjorie taught you that. She says it wards off lingering spirits and invites good weather. You believe her, mostly. You remember last Candlemas when the snow melted just enough to reveal a patch of green. The village gathered around it like it was treasure. Someone tried to eat it. It was moss. You hum softly, a tune passed down from your grandmother. Your siblings join in, their voices thin but sweet. The dog howls along.
You laugh. It feels good. You visit the chapel, where the priest blesses candles and speaks of purification. He says light conquers darkness. You nod. You want to believe. You return home and light 3 more candles, 1 for warmth, 1 for health, 1 for luck. You place them near the hearth, watching the flames dance. Your mother smiles, your siblings clap, the dog sneezes. You remember a story about a woman who lit 100 candles on Candlemas and danced until spring arrived. They say she wore flowers in her hair and never caught cold again. You wonder if she had bark bread. You mix herbs into a small pouch, lavender, thyme, and dried rose petals. You hang it near the door. It smells like memory and maybe magic. You help Marjorie carve symbols into a wooden plank, stars, suns, and crooked spirals. She says it's for protection. You say it's beautiful. Historians still debate whether medieval villagers practiced folk rituals alongside church rites. You say they did. You say belief is layered, like your cloak. You sit by the fire, candles glowing, herbs hanging, symbols carved. Your siblings play with wax drippings, molding tiny animals. Your mother hums. The dog naps. Outside, the wind is softer. Inside, you believe. You dream of a world where rituals bring rain, where candles chase away coughs, where spring arrives with a smile and a bouquet. You wake to the scent of rosemary and wax. You smile.
You spot it just after dawn, a tiny green shoot poking through the slush near the well. You blink, rub your eyes, and squint. It's real. It's alive. It's not moss. You kneel down, fingers trembling, and touch it gently. It's soft, damp, and stubborn. You whisper, "Hello." Spring hasn't arrived, not fully, but it's flirting. The snow is patchy now, melting into puddles that reflect the sky like broken mirrors. The air smells different, less like rot, more like possibility. You breathe deeply, you cough, but you smile. Historians still argue whether the Little Ice Age delayed planting seasons or simply shortened them. You say it made every green thing a miracle. You rush home and tell your mother. She nods, eyes tired but bright. She hands you a pouch of dried peas. "We'll try," she says. You grab a spade and head to the garden plot, which is mostly mud and regret. You dig carefully, planting the peas like secrets. Your siblings help, giggling as they splash in puddles. The dog digs too, enthusiastically and incorrectly. You laugh. You don't stop him. You remember last spring when the first crop failed and the second was stolen by crows. You built a scarecrow from old tunics and a broken broom. It scared no one. You named it Sir Flap. You visit Marjorie. She's planting onions. She gives you 3 bulbs and a hug. You trade her a bark round and a story about the green shoot. She says it's a sign. You agree. You check the food chest. It's still mostly empty, but there's a jar of pickled turnips and a handful of dried nettles. You boil them into soup. It tastes like hope and dirt. You patch the roof again, this time with dry straw.
It holds. You patch your boots with wax and linen. They squeak less. You patch your heart with laughter and green shoots. You remember a story about a farmer who planted peas in snow and grew a forest. They say he talked to plants and married a tree. You wonder if the tree made bark bread. Historians still debate whether medieval peasants used charms to encourage crops. You say yes. You say you whispered to the peas. You sit by the hearth watching your siblings draw flowers in the ash. Your mother hums. The dog naps with a sprig of rosemary on his nose. Outside the mud glistens. Inside you dream. You dream of a world where green shoots grow into gardens, where peas become feasts, where spring doesn't just flirt, it stays. You wake to birdsong. You smile. You count heads. 1, 2, 3 siblings, your mother, the dog. You. Still breathing. Still here. The snow is mostly gone now, clinging to shadows and stubborn corners. The air is damp, the ground soft, and the sky, well, it's still gray, but it's a lighter gray. You step outside and feel the mud squish beneath your patched boots. It's disgusting. It's glorious. You walk to the well. The ice is gone. Water trickles, clear and cold. You fill a bucket and carry it home, sloshing and smiling. Your siblings cheer. You all drink deeply. It tastes like spring. Historians still argue whether medieval peasants celebrated survival or simply moved on. You say, survival is a celebration. You help your mother clean the cottage. The straw bedding is replaced. The hearth is scrubbed. The food chest is restocked. Barely. A few peas, some nettles, a jar of pickled hope. You hang herbs near the door. You sweep the floor. You patch the curtain. You visit Marjorie. She's planting carrots. She gives you seeds and a hug. You trade her a story about the well. She laughs. You laugh. It feels strange. It feels good. You remember last winter, the cold, the coughs, the wolves, the Thor. You remember the bark bread, the bandits, the graves. You remember the feast days, the monks, the lullabies. You remember surviving. You sit by the fire, which burns brighter now. Your siblings play with wax and sticks. Your mother hums. The dog naps. You stitch a new cloak, this one with flowers. You hear the church bell, not for death, for planting. The priest speaks of renewal, of grace, of peas. You nod. You believe. You remember a story about a village that danced every spring until the crops grew. You start humming. Your siblings join in. You dance. The dog barks. Marjorie claps. Historians still debate whether joy was common in medieval spring. You say it's earned. You lie down near the hearth, wrapped in your flowered cloak. Your siblings snore. Your mother smiles. The dog sighs. Outside, The mud dries. Inside, you live. You dream of a world where winter is just a memory, where spring is a promise kept, where survival is a song. You wake to warmth. You smile.
Now the fire's low, and the cottage is quiet. The snow has melted, the wolves have gone, and the bark bread is just a story you tell when someone complains about dinner. You're still here. You made it. Your fingers are cracked, your boots are patched, and your cloak is stitched from scraps, but you're warm. You're fed. You're surrounded by laughter, even if it's thin and tired. The dog snores. Your siblings dream. Your mother hums a tune that sounds like spring. You think about the green shoot near the well. It's taller now, braver, like you. You think about the peas you planted, the herbs you hung, the prayers you whispered. You think about the graves you dug, the songs you sang, the soup you stirred. You think about the cold and how it tried to take everything, but it didn't. You survived the medieval winter. You endured the frost, the hunger, the fear. You faced wolves, bandits, disease, and despair. You stitched cloaks from curtains, made bread from bark, and found joy in onions and wax animals. You lit candles for Candlemas, sang lullabies to fevers, and danced in the mud. And now, as the fire fades and the sky softens, you rest. So close your eyes. Let the warmth wrap around you like a patchwork cloak. Let the quiet hum of survival lull you to sleep. Let the memory of snow melt into dreams of green fields and gentle rain. You're safe now. You're home. Sweet dreams.